I remember this like it was yesterday, dude. All right, let's do this thing, man. I don't know what we're calling these things, but you guys enjoyed them in the past. Basically, we're gonna break down Chris Forsberg's run from the top 32 to the top 16 as I was his spotter. A lot of people are asking me, you know, like, what are you saying as a spotter? What are you telling Chris? Unfortunately, Chris and I, during like the actual event, are not recording the radio like communication. So there's some privacy to the team there, but I am here to bring what I can to light as far as what I'm telling Chris as a spotter, which is gonna be, dude, super close to the actual reality, meaning there's some things on the car, maybe he's adjusting for his own team, if you will. So from the spotter's perspective, I'm giving you guys everything right here. Let's go. So we're going top 32. Chris leads first, Robert's going to chase, and a little bit of insight into what we're talking about prior to even battling Robert is, are we on pace? Right? So basically, Alex Yeager, the Pro 2 driver, was able to pull timing. So we do have somebody on a stopwatch that's showing us on average Robert's pace. So keeping the cars close in pace equals we're not gonna get left behind. So we are doing some car setup to make sure that we are fast enough or slow enough to be with Robert. So let's dive into Chris's chase run, where I've basically asked him to do nothing different than he was doing in practice. And over the radio, I'm really telling him, like, this is a practice run. Don't do anything different. Chris's lead runs from the first run to the 7th run were awesome. So we really didn't want Chris to overdrive and hurt his own line. So let's see Chris's lead. So here's where a lot of times the drivers are really wanting to get on with the show. They wait so long at the line. People put GoPros on, etc. Here we go. So Chris's lead run, outer 1, filling most of the whole zone, switch back, outer 2, trying to be right on that wall. Here's where he's got to reach for outer 3, which he does a good job at, switches back, and here he goes into 4, and we all lost our shit right there. So you're gonna notice when Chris was in outer 4, he did technically what we asked him not to do, meaning he reached so far into 4, Tito, that you could see right here, dude, he had a tire off, right? So in my head right now, I'm thinking this is the easiest place for the judges to see this. And for us, this was a big mistake. He overdrove in 4, we asked him not to, and my heart rate was high. Luckily, you're noticing again right there on that quick playback. Luckily, as he drives through 4 and he gets 1 tire off, his trailing rear wheel stays on. He catches this entry road here and he's able to get the forward drive back to what would be almost a perfect exit line. So man, I was like, hey Chris, we are at a deficit, right? You overdrove 4. It was really hard for me to see if you actually got 2 tires off. So what we're going to need in the chase run is for you to be on his door everywhere. Robert hits a cone. So again, we get 1 more time for me to basically talk him through here. Hey Chris, just a reminder, Robert hit a cone, you're in the chase. With this, you have a deficit in 4. Overall, you know, you had a great lead run, but again, with the 4, I really want to see you on Robert's door. We're looking for good timing from 1 to 2. Also going from 2 to 3, I would like you to push him through 3, right? Don't get left behind in 3. Watch your transition in 4 and be right on him. And he says, copy, and they take off. Boom, Chris enters in, half a car off, sacrificing some line in the chase. Good transition timing there. Pushing through 2, keeping the same amount of distance, right? So now we're wondering, is Chris just giving him that room? Boom, Robert throws it into 4. Chris butters up a little safe into 4, and that was that. So my feedback on that would be, hey Chris, did you stay about a half a car to 3/4 of a car off of him through 2 to 3? Were you trying to pick up pace and he wasn't able, like you weren't able to dive into him? And the feedback there was basically, we locked into our position and we stayed there. So Chris wasn't trying to door him any harder and Chris wasn't trying to fall off any further, if that makes sense. So he pretty much locked in and just stayed there, which I felt like could have been more aggressive, but also looked very pro and smooth behind him, right? Where Robert had some late transitions and things. So they do their side-by-sides, which they normally do like so often. So in Robert's chase, he was surging, backing up, surging, backing up, where Chris really just had a locked-in chase. So I think Chris looked much more like connected to the lead car. Although Robert was like more aggressive in one section, he would then fall off. And so being aggressive is cool, but you can't be aggressive and then lose gap and then gain gap and lose gap. It kind of looks inconsistent. So with that being said, Chris gets the win. Boom. So there was a one more time to Robert. So it was like we realized that there was still room to be had. And I think the point of the story there was in the chase run, we needed to be a little more aggressive, like lock in on a quarter of a car off versus half a car. And also don't overdrive, which is what the whole Formula Drift crowd is looking for. Moving on. All right, top 16, let's go. All right, so something that I wanted to note before Chris's run real quick was when Ryan and Dylan ran, which was literally right before Chris. Dylan enters in on Ryan, boom, big entry, taps Ryan, taps the wall, bobbles, sticks with Ryan, and that really seemed to be a benefit. So keep that in mind going forward now as we jump into Chris's run. Something I notice a lot as a spotter in Formula Drift is when guys are aggressive and they do gnarly things, it seems to benefit them versus being too safe. I'll word it like that. And who wins out of the ride? Dylan gets the win, you know what I mean? So he's on entry, bumps him, bobbles, all shit, stays with him, gets the win. Keep that in mind as I am spotting for Forsberg. Diving into the top 16, talking about the mindset. So from the trailer break, going into Matt Field, pretty much when I watch Matt, and this is what I was telling Chris, right? I'm watching Matt, and from the first run out of the trailer on Thursday's practice, all the way up through every single thing, Matt probably stays a quarter or no car off the lead car. Matt Field is driving a kind of final battle mentality. So now we're in the top 16 and we got Forsberg, who generally can be conservative, you know, because he's just that good, right? He can lock in and just stay right there with you. He doesn't need to push you. He's just like locks in and he can be looking conservative. So with that, I'm going into this, I'm telling Chris, he is going to be on your door. If you give him half a car like you gave Robert Thorne, we will lose. Like you have to ride the wall in 1, good transition back, run 2, reach for 3, big transition into 4, don't overdrive 4. Your line was already perfect. And then when you go to chase him, you have to be on his door. So let's see how this goes down. So it looks like Matt's running about 1,000 horsepower. Chris is running about 1,000 horsepower. So here we go, man. Chris's first run out. Run through the gears, 4th gear entry. Little wall ride, bouncing out of 1. Switch back into 2. Mid line in 2. Locked in for 3. Matt's about, you know, his quarter car off. He's honestly looking less aggressive than I thought. Dives into 4. Bobble from Matt. Surges back to Chris. So as a spotter, dude, when I watched this, I was like, whoa, that was rare. Like Chris ran a wall ride in 1, midline in 2, no bobble into 3, switch back into 4, did his, midline in 4 so he didn't go off track like he did in the top 16. Matt surged on him in 4, seemed to either not keep the wheel speed up or something, bobble to almost straight, surge back in just to try to like kick the door out to exit, and I thought, dang, Matt is off his game. Like he had some sort of error in 4 for sure, and he really didn't door, like Chris had the pace that like kept Matt half car off. So I've seen more aggressive chases from Matt with 0 mistakes. So here was when I was able to tell Chris, hey Chris, this is exactly what happened. From 2 to 3, you took off a little bit on him, and then into 4, he had a pretty big bobble that looked awkward. Meanwhile, I felt that Chris had a pretty fluid run. And that's what I translated to Chris. Now we're moving on to the chase, which was basically me telling Chris, even with his bobble, we need you to act like this is the finals. I need you to run Matt all around the track, meaning in 1, stay on him, 2, good transition timing, and push him through 3. So a lot of guys in 2 could wait for the lead car to fire off, and when you wait that 1 second, you lose a car, right? So the goal for Chris coming out of 1 into 2 is to imagine Matt's not even there and just drive through all the way to 3, hopefully tapping door and pushing him through 3. So let's see what we get out of this. And in my head, like Tito can overlay some of the vlog, I'm like, that's pretty good. Matt made a mistake. Like this is like, could be where we take back one of those wins, dude. Like I didn't see Matt make that mistake at all weekend. So we're like, all right, Chris, hold this shit together, dude. Here we go. Off the line. My heart rate is higher than I am driving my car. Boom, enter in. Okay, we got a half a car off. Boom, good transition timing. We got a quarter car off. Matt's not just like leaving us. Wait, we're picking up some pace on Matt. Okay, switch back, Chris, hold this together. All right, we're in 4. On the door, tapping them. And I literally told Chris, I think you got this one, dude. I swear, I think you got this one. Like, that was a pretty good chase. I think in 1, you could have saved that half a car. 2, you could have saved that half a car. Like, we could have been slightly more aggressive. Like, that was kind of the overall feeling in the chase. But again, Chris does what Chris does. He locks in and he holds the line. He didn't surge and then fall off. He didn't like do anything that could have like caused Matt to fuck up. Like, he just laid right there and stayed right on him. And then as we fast forward just a little bit here, you guys see that it went all Matt's way. And I thought this little scorecard thing was broke, to be honest. What? What? They all went Matt Field. What the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck?
What the fuck was that? So I was in the spotters, like I was up top in the building. And basically from here, multiple spotters came up to me and asked if something was wrong with this call. And I immediately thought to myself, oh my gosh, I need to go down to the judges and talk to them. I went in there and I looked through the glass wall and I basically like kind of waved at the judges. They invited me in. I went in, I spoke to Ryan Sage and I spoke to Chris Ewell, the race director, and they told me I needed to wait until after the race to get a statement. And that statement was really never provided or connected as far as I'm concerned on this video now to you guys. So I think listening back to the runs, you'll hear the announcers who are not the judges talk a little bit about just Chris's momentum in his lead. And that's all I could gather up. And to clear the air at Formula Drift, it's like, this is what I'm kind of talking about. Like, I'm a spotter in Formula Drift and I've been drifting for 15 years and it just seems sometimes hard to call it. And so I apologize to Forsberg and the team in the idea that my spotting called this run completely wrong. Like, I told Chris, dude, I think we won. I really think Matt bobbled in 4. Something happened there, which if you watch back on Chris's practice runs, which was what I was studying, Chris's momentum in the zones was what he had in his car. You know what I'm saying? If a Corvette can dive and surge more than Chris's Z can stick and handle, is that Chris's fault? Like, the only thing we could put together was Chris caused Matt to bobble in 4. But if you watch Chris throughout the entire weekend, which they're getting shy of 15 runs, that's how Chris drove 4. So I'm sorry, Chris, if I called us backwards and got us all hyped up to win, because we completely lost. And that left us kind of scratching our head, and that's how the Formula Drift spotting went for me and Chris Forsberg. I want to be a better spotter now that I'm continually doing this, so I need to like figure some stuff out on my own. But yeah, dude, just catch you guys up. That's a little behind the scenes on Formula Drift.
Heaven should know.